Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I am your host, Graveyard, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. He's in the chat, so make sure to say hi to him. He likes to hear from each and every one of you. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our two guests for tonight, the writer and director, along with actor and producer of The Haunting of Hollywood. Please welcome to the Void, Lilia Doytchinova and Tiffany Downey.
Hey guys.
Hey.
How are you guys doing today or tonight?
Good.
The bigger question is, how are you doing with tornadoes and shit?
Well, tornadoes coming by this evening and snow tomorrow. So, the Midwest, gotta love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You ready for snowboarding and skiing?
No. I'm too old of a man to do that. So welcome. So before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes, I like to know a little bit more about the TV. So, do you guys consider yourself, horror movie fans, especially with a movie like this?
I definitely I'm a fan of the supernatural storylines. So, and I consider this a psychological horror, psychological thriller. So I'm definitely more interested in things along these lines, like ghosts and paranormal and mystery, psychological thriller along those lines. That's definitely I love, but I love all movies.
Awesome.
We love the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the fans, they'll definitely probably recognize that influence, but definitely a big fan. I'm a big Ari Aster fan, from Midsommar to Hereditary. I mean, even when you said the Paranormal Activity, Paranormal Activity movies, they're kind of like the next wave of the Blair Witch. Found footage for sure.
And I'll go all the way back to Poltergeist or The Changeling, and that's like a wheelchair at the top of the staircase.
Yeah. What about The Ring? Remember The Ring?
Oh my God, The Ring is for me the most scary movie ever. I won't even watch that again.
No.
No. Okay, not to get on a tangent. I swear watching The Ring put ghosts in my apartment. I swear it opened a portal. No, I won't watch it.
Oh, yeah. We do it. My co-host and I, we do another show where we review horror movies, and next month is all Japanese horror. So we're going to the Japanese Rings and The Grudges and reviewing all that stuff to the American ones as well.
Oh my God, that sounds exciting. Yeah. Wow.
Here's the thing with The Ring. Don't watch it alone. Don't watch it in a scary place. I'm sure I watched it alone in an apartment that already had some paranormal activity. So that was not the way to do it. So watch it with your friends, in a safe space. Yeah. Scare the bejeebies out of you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I think I saw the original American Ring in theaters. And I loved it. But yeah, my then girlfriend, now wife, she has issues with the paranormal ghost stuff, especially stuff in people's houses, because any noise kind of gets her to like, oh, what was that?
I just had a ghost in a place I was staying. It was going into the bathroom at night. The bathroom had a light that tripped by motion detector in the house in View Park.
Oh wow!
And it was middle of the night. For some reason, I wasn't sleeping. And I'm lying in bed. My boyfriend's sound asleep next to me. And I can see through the bedroom where we are, I can see the light pops on because it's pitch black. And it's a motion detector light. And I'm like, there's a ghost in the bathroom. There's a ghost in the bathroom. I'm like, are you awake? When you do that one where you're waking them up or pretending like you're checking? Are you awake? He's like, I'm like, there's a ghost in the bathroom. He had no idea what I was talking about, but Twice it did that. 2 separate
Twice. Wow.
You can get to know them. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I found out afterwards, I had an interaction with a neighbor across the street and found out that there had been a boyfriend and girlfriend in the house, and one of them was terminally ill. So I'm like, okay. So I think I met him.
Yeah.
I think he was still here in the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah, the closest experience I ever had like that was at my parents' house growing up. That my dad's dad had died in the house. And when there's the upstairs with my sister's room, I always heard the TV on upstairs when there's no one else home.
Yeah.
So
no, they're around. You know,
I definitely believe it.
Yeah.
I guess that's partly why it's scary to me is that I believe it. So,
right.
and I've had some experiences. I lived in a place where I had odd things, voices, you know, animals. I also think are sensitive to it. My cat knew something was up in that particular place, and probably the most significant thing was the drapery, which had no, it wasn't like electric drapes or like even pulley. It was just the kind you would have to grab and close. The most significant thing was the drapes closed themselves in front of my eyes.
Mhm.
And I had a witness to that. And we were both like,
Yeah.
I was like, that happened.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
that was, yeah.
I'll be so scared. I don't know what I'll do. First, start lighting sage.
Yeah. Oh man, I had holy water in that particular apartment because I'd been having some experiences. I went through all the rounds. So if anyone needs to deal with this, I can tell you.
Tiffany.
Yes, the holy water, sage. I also you can get music that's like space clearing music. Like I was playing Celtic music.
Oh, okay.
You just want to raise the vibration of the space.
Mm-hmm.
And also I learned my lesson in that too. Like, you don't play with it. So you don't like, you need to stay, like, we need to each stay in our dimension.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you don't like,
don't bug them.
Don't bug.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Don't try to interact with
Yeah.
it. Cause that's where you kind of, you know, maybe you interact with something you don't want to interact with. You just sort of like stay in your lane.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that the TV show I'm working the pilot for, where I'm going to look for ghosts, is probably not a good idea.
I met these two guys working on a show like that, and they had real experiences, like physical experiences. Like they both had injuries from. So they claimed, I didn't know them super well, but so they claimed from ghost activity like this, where they were like ghost hunters and like had been, you know, pushed around, knocked around, like pushed out of a truck, not a moving truck, but like a, you know, grip truck. So I don't know. I say proceed with caution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of the Demon House that Zach from Ghost Avengers did in Gary, Indiana. He did a movie on. They just did a movie called Deliverance. It was on Netflix this year. And I'm only a few miles from that, where the hell mouth was, because I'm in Indiana, and I actually know the priest that went there to look at that stuff. My parents know him really well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you planning on going to that house with your show?
I kind of want to do like a kind of like a small town America investigation, because everyone goes to the Conjuring house, everyone goes to these huge places, but every town has a story, and I want to showcase the history of small town America and kind of look at their ghost story.
Yeah, I like that. I can't wait for you to make this show. It's the kind of show I would watch. And I think you're right. Like there's like the Amityville and some of these big ticket, you know, but it's true that the small town, like Main Street America, like
I lived in a house like that when I was upstate. When I was going to college in New York and I was living upstate, we lived in a
haunted house.
Yeah, we had a few other international students, and everybody knew that was the ghost house, but us.
Yeah. And you don't know why the rent is so cheap until you find out.
And then eventually, as you know, we all started having gas late at night from the previous owners of like 100 years ago. You know, and in my room, it was a small girl. She was like, she used to be a ballerina or something, and she would come, you know, late at night and open my door, and I can hear her steps coming in. And even like sometimes she would sit on the bed, you know, come out, you know, and I would freak out.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was nice. She was a young ghost for sure. But yeah, that exists.
Yeah.
I experienced it.
Yeah, and you know, kind of goes into the movie then too, because you know this movie is kind of based on the Peg and Whistle story,
Oh,
and kind of
so
what.
she
So
lived here at a Hollywood sign.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, you know, what kind of drew you to her story to even be the basis and inspiration for this movie then?
Well, there was a couple of things, honestly. As much as the Haunting of Hollywood does, tells a story where there's a big presence of a ghost. Also,
Hmm.
this is a story very much that touches on mental health awareness and anxieties and nightmares, experiences of young artists and any kind of artists,
Hmm.
here in Hollywood. And it was just like combining a real life events, authentic, original, genuine experiences that I was having and the people around me with my research on the Hollywood sign and finding, the story of Peg and Twistle and how she was an actress in the 30s,
Hmm.
came and jumped from the sign in 1932 and just got very fascinated with her story. And it just all kind of came together.
Yeah, yeah, because you hear stuff like that, especially in the Hollywood, LA area. You know, talk about like the Laugh Factory or Laugh Club.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be really haunted, and we had the guy Joey Gaynor who was on the uh um unsolved mystery episode for that too, and talked about that. He's just talking about there's so much history and death in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
So many.
I also think there's a lot of tragedy here because there's
Mhm.
so much emotion built into, like you just have a lot of you have a lot of people who can easily become victims.
Mhm.
And like I had in a space near where my recording studio is now, there was like a little bit of paranormal activity. Not in the studio has its own stories as well, but this was a different space. But when I had somebody who's kind of intuitive look into it, um, they felt like it was, actors that like. I just feel like you have a lot of prey in Hollywood, and I mean, like, look at how often there are girls disappearing. Not that it doesn't happen
Mhm.
to, but girls disappearing and like girls being lured up to houses, maybe by a producer or director, whatever. I'm talking even going, way back.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so I feel like there's probably a lot of heightened emotion in our city,
100%.
like
Yes, there's many
tragedy and
suicide
yeah,
acts, unfortunately,
Mhm.
accidents and all kinds of stories like that of
Yeah.
red
yeah.
artists and
It's the
actors.
it's that we have the high highs and the low lows. Like
Yep.
the ability to achieve like the pinnacle of success and money and fame and whatever. You have like such a big gold nugget that draws so many people to this town.
And this is what the story is about, about a lot
Mhm.
of how
What's really going to happen?
one actress, she came and she decided to take her life away, and now her anxieties and traumas keep living through her
Hmm.
son.
Mhm.
She's pulling him into the sign.
Yeah, and I feel like it's telling a story that's a really common theme on so many levels. One being the multi-generational relationship to Hollywood, where you have a mother who's aspiring to be famous and believes this is like the end all be all. This will make everything make sense in her life, and
Mhm.
she really imbues these ideals into her son. So he's following the same,
Now
a
he's
lot of
on a
broken
quest
people. Yeah, now
with his
he's
friends who are also
Right.
aspiring artists, and it's just really this urban tale of darker Hollywood that we're not really see on every day. We don't really like
we
talk
live
much
in
about.
it.
Yeah,
The
we live
truth
in
is,
it,
we live in it. But
Right.
so we can tell it,
Yeah.
how it is.
Well, and I think that really it ties to, especially with the indie community in the film like this, is
Yeah.
that I feel like indie's able to tell these stories without the mass Hollywood machine. They're kind of getting
Yeah.
in the way, and I don't think we could ever truly see something like this, especially the Haunting of Hollywood, in the major Hollywood studio, because they
Exactly.
don't want to expose all that.
Grittier, dirtier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even remember when when I sent the script to one of the cast members the
Mhm.
night before we started shooting, like the new revisions or something I had. And I remember he called me and he was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" We're getting a very nice picture of our town we live in. I'm like, "No, we're just being honest, you know." But it still is a love letter to LA.
Yeah.
You can still, I feel like, feel the love and appreciation for the culture and the history there is here, and the nature and history, and you know, all just the beautiful. It's a vibe, you know.
Yeah.
And we love that, and we celebrate it in the movie, even in a darker, you know,
Absolutely,
darker way.
Absolutely. And you know, there is a lot of nuance to the film that if you're a David Lynch fan, you'll see a lot of influence. Someone who we recently lost, but
who's I'm sure Spirit will be.
I was just gonna say, it's like
doing the weirdest things too,
right? another Spirit to add to
for sure. He's for sure some of it, you know.
So is he hanging on Mulholland Highway? Where is he hanging?
Probably Spirit place. Yeah.
I mean, but both of you, you both moved to LA to pursue your career in this industry, and you always say if you want to make it, you move to LA, right? While you have big pieces in Chicago, big pieces in New York, Atlanta, still LA is kind of the heart of the entire industry.
Yeah, because here's where everybody comes in. It's like just open and ready to jump in any, opportunity to create something. This is a town where everybody working their day jobs, whether they're cashiers or
everybody
waiters.
Is working. Everybody is
working their jobs, and at night,
it's almost like it's a comedy because you can be anywhere in town and you just like stop and listen to the tables around you or getting a coffee or whatever. And they're like wheeling and dealing. I had a client at the studio and I took him to Frogtown, which is a little more remote. Yeah. It's like an artsy, like suburb community, artistic community. And we're just kind of walking around and vibing. And there's like this whole deal going down. There's like a guy on the phone. He's like, making a deal with somebody like, well, this draft and, blah, 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 and so on.
And every Starbucks coffee you go to, somebody's working on a draft.
Everybody's in their computer writing scripts. They're like, and like today I was on my way actually to Lilia's, and first I see this guy and I'm sort of like, I'm like, wow, okay, he's like, something's going on there. He's got like a granny wig and a dress, but it's, in Hollywood you can see anything. But then like I'm watching further because I'm in traffic and I'm like, oh no, it's an actor. Like there's somebody filming. He's in red heels, a dress, a gray granny wig. It's,
and that's what's good about it. That's one of the good parts about LA. Exactly. It's just everybody here's on their quest to making their dreams happen,
Yeah, and that's awesome. Myself, I'm part of Horror Dads. We're independent horror film team, and there's 6 of us across the country. And I'm really like 15 miles from Chicago, and it's just like we're the indie. But you said we have day jobs. We are weekend warriors. We do everything we can, all nights, weekends, all summer, just to make the projects happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that though, and I love Chicago. By the way. Like shout out to your city. I'm a fan of the Green Mill, and your city also has a lot of ghosts because you have quite a bit of history with
a few mobsters here and there.
Yeah,
yeah. That's one of the ghost stories in this area that I want to investigate because the town next to me was supposedly a dumping ground for the mafia.
Oh wow!
And so there's ghost stories that have been there for 70 years, 80 years at this point that my dad heard growing up that I want to go investigate now.
Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah, Chicago's I became a fan of Chicago and Milwaukee in the earlier days of my career I was doing auto shows. And nobody wanted to do those shows. They were in the height of winter. And I would pick them because I liked both of those cities. So I'm a fan of your city, but yeah, you definitely have a relationship to a lot of, your own share of like money, power, and all the stuff that kind of drives all this.
Every big city in America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lily, I want to know, with this movie being without spoiling anything, do you have other stories that you have been intrigued by doing your history and research of Hollywood that you'd want to tell a different story that is there?
Yeah, you mean a different ghost story?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty. There's just abundance of ghost stories here, from all the way back from the 30s, when all the actors came from Coast, flocking here, and the first studio systems when we're emerging, just so many, the whole Hollywood Boulevard, every hotel, every restaurant, there is a story about a struggling actor or artist that just got divorced or shot their husband or their wife here, or something happened,
there's like the Greystone Mansion, the Doheny people, and like there's so many mysterious places where like when you dig a little deeper, it's like
and LA is like there's a lot of speakeasies here as well. So
we went out in October. We went out hunting for ghosts, and we found, and we barely skimmed the surface.
Yeah, which is on our YouTube channel too, like
on
Hollywood, where me and Tiffany go on a little investigation around Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, and just tell you a little bit about epic locations and what
you
went
mentioned
down.
One.
Yeah,
Comedy Store, improv, places like that.
The Chateau Marmont, and just so many.
That's great, because like I said, this is why I want to do the show too, is the history is as crucial as the present in any industry, and especially Hollywood and stuff like that too, just because you have to understand the pain and tragedies that existed to help try to avoid now, right? Obviously we still have cases of still rampant going on in Hollywood, let's kind of face it, but it's more public now than it was 90 years ago.
Well, any place where like a town has the power to transform a person's life overnight, which Hollywood really does, is like the stakes are so high, you're going to have kind of these elements, because there's a lot, it's easy to seduce the people into things with that bait, because it's real. It really can happen, but a lot more people will be victims than will be the success story.
Yeah, and just being here, I feel like makes people feel like a little closer to their dream, and they're like willing to take big risks. And not every time it can take off. Sometimes you fall flat when you take such a big.
Yeah, and that goes back to our story of Olivia. She is taking like big risks, also with the idea that like that this is gonna fix all her mental health problems, like which
any
I'm sure
trauma,
she doesn't.
Problems, but for sure.
But for her, it's like this. Yeah,
and I think that is just she's not okay with.
Well, you guys kind of, like I said, you touch on the what we still consider taboo of mental health. Yes, we're having more things come out, but once again, I still think the major studios are still not willing to go down that path. It takes independents like yourself to tell that story and to showcase it, and that's really why I like indie a hell of a lot more than I have for a number of years than the major studios.
Yeah, we hope this will all change. I feel like there is a rise to independent filmmakers as we speak, and now with a Norris win at the Oscars, I think that's definitely paving and shining more light on independent filmmakers.
Well, I'm going to say something that's probably not a good idea to say, but like Netflix just spent $320 million on some kind of a bizarre, like I don't know, superhero-ish kind of sci-fi thriller thing in Electric State, which has bombed.
I haven't watched it.
And Sean Baker made a Nora for like $4 or $6 million. I've heard different budgets out there, but and won the Oscar. So I feel like we're in a place where maybe people are starting to recognize that it's always about the story. You don't need hundreds of millions of dollars. You need good stories, and we've gone through these stages where Hollywood's almost like pushed everyone else out of the business for these like big films. And for a while it worked, and it's not working anymore because
now I feel like you appreciate more the process of the indie filmmakers, you know, because more and more people are doing it themselves, and more people realize how hard it is.
Yeah.
And it's just really like,
maybe it's more relatable.
It's more relatable, and I think there's going to be definitely more opportunities for, you know, for independent filmmakers.
But as much as we say it's accessible, this is the point where I have to make a really big point and say that to make a film and finish a film is a really, really, really challenging thing. So a lot of people set out to do something like this. There are so many places along the way where it would be so easy to quit. And I know, because I know Lilia went through each of these corridors where you go so far and then you're like, oh my God, and then you've got to go further and further. So I just have to say that it's a huge, huge thing to finish a feature film. And until you've done it, you don't really know how much is involved in actually crossing the line and delivering a film for distribution. It is a monumental task. So
yeah, and you got to do it if you love it and you're super passionate about it, and surround yourself with as passionate people and artists, you know, to do it all together. But that's why it's all about the journey, you know, and going back to the story of like how many people come here thinking that fame will fix all of their problems, which Olivia's thought also, but it's not that, right? It's about the journey. It's about just going through every motion of it and every up and down of it, and accepting all everything that comes within this journey and enjoying it truly.
I feel like even for us in a microcosm of like our story, even we've had to learn to kind of slow it down and enjoy the process, because you're trying to get all these things done and meet deadlines, and then you know, we're in a place where you have to do the
dialogue all over again.
Yeah,
you know, you got to do a major ADR. You know, we're not ready yet to move to music or color. You know, you just like, and you have to be okay with that. You know.
And I think it goes back to, you have to love what you're doing. I feel like we're in a time where a lot of people are trying to shortcut the process of the doing to get to an end result. Like, you know, AI or whatever, like these technologies are going to give you like some kind of a shortcut to get to some finish line. But I think the real secret is like, if you love what you do, each of these challenges, as hard as they are,
people that you enjoy.
Yeah, as hard as they are, you're like, that's the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, AI has its place. It's never going to replace. They're never going to be able to write a story that feels it comes from someone's artistic being.
Exactly.
You know, like,
and if somebody could automatically hand you the magic final product, you would be denied the process, which is like, that's the whole thing, is the making.
We're
creators.
Yeah.
So, and learning so much about the process and yourself and other people as you go along, you know, with any endeavor like that, you know, peel another layer of yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely true. You know, when I started getting into the horror dads about a year and a half, 2 years ago, it's just been a huge process and eye-opening thing. It's like I sat with the writer and director in a car ride for like 6 hours to get to our first filming location. And that's a lot of talking and getting to know them at a much more personal level. And we're friends. We talk every day. You know, we're going to be going to Connecticut here in June for 2 weeks to film our next project. And driving. So that's a lot of time together to talk about what our plans for everything as we button down. Because, you know, a film is a growing, evolving project. Is it rarely ever what's exactly on the piece of paper?
No, it's not. It becomes its own thing. It's gonna, you know, that's,
and then you kind of have to let it have its own life, right?
Yeah.
You have to let it go and let, you know,
like a
child. Yeah,
it's kind of like sending it off to college.
Yeah, because I know when I edit my stuff and I'm just go, I could edit this forever. At some point in time, though, I do have to call it and go, okay, or have someone else do like a final edit for me, just because I'm like, I could be here forever.
Yeah,
it's never gonna finish if I just keep touching it, keep tweaking it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's never, that's the other thing too. It's never going to be like
Perfect.
kind of perfect or done, because that's the whole, that's the whole challenge. Is
That's the
like,
whole illusion that there's
yeah.
perfection.
Yeah, you
and
just have
there's
to
really
stop. Every
Mhm.
film, actually, in reality, like every film is just a place where a director was forced to stop. Like for the audience who doesn't,
Yeah,
every director
That's
would
true.
go back in and re-edit and tweak and whatever, given the opportunity. What you're seeing is the place they
Yes.
were forced to stop, and that's that snapshot. That's all it is.
Mhm.
That was very well said.
Yeah.
You don't want to George Lucas it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go on forever with a movie, and then it becomes 3 different versions of it,
Mhm.
See,
But-
just it's better for you. You have the director's cut, you have the ADR cut, you have all these other cuts. You just release them slowly over time.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about the way things are morphing now to where you can actually do that. Like,
Mhm.
that is a positive of like, because sometimes I'm like, there's pros and cons to how technology is interfacing with our distribution stream. But then there are times where I'm like, oh, that's good. That's
Mhm.
actually cool. I was at a Q&A with Billy Bob Thornton, who's going to re-release one of his films, do the director's cut he never got to do. And like now these opportunities exist. So you're like, oh, that's good. Like
That's
there are other
nice.
times where like I'm also a huge, huge supporter of theaters, real theaters.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Go out, sit your butt in a seat with your popcorn and watch the movie in a physical space with other people. I'm a big, big supporter of that. So
Yeah, 100%. That's where we fell in love with movies at first.
yeah.
Of course. Yeah, we just did for our movie that we filmed last year, we just did a VHS cut of it.
Oh yes.
Because it is found footage, and we were able to work with someone for the VHS part of the scenes. We're able to make it more VHS because it's all SD cards at this point in time. Let's face it,
Yeah.
And it's just something that we're going like, you know what? Yeah, we need to do more stuff like this.
Yeah. I love that though. It's interesting, like even on the music side, like we all saw the resurgence of vinyl. And then I started talking to people about cassette tape, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, cassette tape is like back too. Like people are doing cassette tape. It's super cool. Like, and I
It
think
is
all
so,
of these VHS,
just that memorabilia and nostalgia for
and the physical, tangible thing. It's like, Polaroid. Like as much as we get away from this stuff because there's a more high tech way to do it, nothing beats the old school real Polaroid. Like
exactly.
it's just it's like I forget what there's that German camera. I had one at one point where you tape it all up and you shoot with it. I can't even think of the name. It almost came into my head and flew out. But again, it goes back to like all these mediums. They all have a different nuance.
And there's stamp. They have a different timestamp of different eras and moments of our lives and years. So it's a nice memory, get attached.
Yeah. I grew up analog and as a teenager became digital, and but I also grew up though. If you didn't have a copy of it, you didn't have it. You couldn't watch it any other way. So I'm a huge collector of laser discs because I love laser discs so much.
Me too.
Old video game systems and all the games to it too. So I still have that mentality of physical things. But my kids are all digital.
Yeah. And the thing is that like you look at like if something were to happen and like when any of these things happen where we're shut off and you realize like I have a very like one of my best friends, I send all my DVDs to him. He's like holding the massive library. So I'm like at the apocalypse, like we're gonna be the cinema. Because we're gonna have like hundreds of movies and TV shows. And like we're gonna be Cinema Paradiso projecting, on the side of a wall somewhere.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome though. It's
popcorn.
well, and I think that's true at Alamo, for what I work with and a lot of indie people that especially horror people love their physical media to this day. It doesn't matter their age, I feel. They
Yeah.
still want their DVD. They still want their Blu-ray. They still want their VHS if we can de-age it to make it, VHS.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that connection, that physical connection.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I tried ebooks when these came out. I go, I need a physical book.
Oh my God, no. I do not read any of that stuff. Like, God love you if you can do that. I would rather go to the library, which I'm a big supporter of the library, because the library will give you every book pretty much that you can imagine for free. And the way the system works now, even they'll deliver it to your library. So you have everything available to you. You can read a physical book on paper and give it back. That's better to me than the ability to access it on your phone or your iPad or whatever.
And I love the smell of a book.
Yes.
Like, that's my
The
favorite
paper.
thing. Yeah, the paper and
Turning the
magazines.
page.
All when it's there. I love
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Love
the
it.
young people have, I do know there are studies, and maybe their brain can do it. Our brains that grew up with books, our brains use reflective light. So that's a really big difference between reading a book on your ebook versus on paper. Is one is backlit, one is reflective light. So my brain likes books. Physical, real books.
Oh yeah. Same.
Yeah, you'd think with what I do IT for a living. So I stare at screens all day that I would be able to adopt that. I don't. I never will.
No, but it makes sense also if you're staring at screens all day that a nice relaxation would be to be off the screen in analog world.
Awesome. So do you guys have any, is The Haunting of Hollywood on a physical release?
Haunting of Hollywood is on streaming, digital release.
After we just trash everything with digital. Yes.
But hey, you never know.
Yeah.
Down
but
the
we're just
line.
at the beginning.
Yes, exactly. So that's definitely something we can definitely think about.
Yeah.
I feel a VHS tape in our future.
Everything is possible.
I love
it.
It's part of the legacy anyways. It's the movies are forever. So it's pretty much all art. But you guys can catch the movie. It's streaming right now on Mommy 2, which you can find a streaming link from our Instagram on Haunting of Hollywood. Or you can download the app for your TV. It's free. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It's absolutely free. So definitely go stream it.
And take advantage of it now because it's free for a window.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're doing an exclusive with Mommy 2, which is an amazing platform for independent filmmakers. So they're our first home. So yes, it's streaming now. Woo, we're releasing out in North America. So you guys can find us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, X, everywhere. We're everywhere. Or if you want to connect with Tiffany, she's at
the Tiffany Downey.
And I'm at Venus Light ENT.
Yes. I can't wait to, I watched this already. It's awesome. I can almost see this as a black and white VHS too.
Ooh,
we have black and white in the movie for the We do have a lot of segments for that as well. Exactly. We can do a full black and white version.
Yeah, I like that.
Great. Yeah.
So I said, if you ever need help getting on DVD, I know people that do independent DVDs. Hit me up. I'll send you their information. They do all our stuff. I'll send it to you after the show too. So I want to get a couple wrap-up questions here. I'm interested for both of your answers. So I always ask this of every guest. If you could work in an existing IP or franchise, any genre, what would it be?
Oh God. Okay. Okay, hold on.
I want to be part of the Batman legacy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Okay.
And Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ooh.
That's fun.
Oh my God. I'm it's
Fast and Furious too.
You gave me so many options that my brain is spinning. I have to really, really think where would I really love to be?
I already have a mini part in one franchise, The Expendables. Shout out.
Yep.
Big action legends.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have to think. That is such a hard question to answer because, first of all, I'm such an indie oriented person that most of what I see are one-offs, not franchises.
The Haunting of Hollywood Part 2.
The Haunting of Hollywood Part 2. I would say also, if I was choosing directors, if I was not oriented towards like a specific storyline franchise, but directors, I would stay, posthumous David Lynch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Thomas Anderson. There's a lot under there. There's a lot of Italian and French directors that I love. Oh my God, I can't say his name now, but the guy who did Amélie, Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
I should know that. I love that movie.
I love everything he does, like from Delicatessen to, like whimsical, but also like odd. And I think he also did the one with
Jean-Pierre
Jeunet. Yeah. So, yeah.
But which franchise?
I know. That's
would you do Paranormal Activity, the LA Files?
Yes.
Yes. Lilia comes back.
Yes. Paranormal, 100%. Especially because I love the whole story about how Paranormal got made and distributed. So you just answered for me. Thank you. That's the franchise I would get behind, because I love how they came about and who got behind them, and
What about you? Which one do you want to do?
Oh, I would do A Nightmare on Elm Street, hands down.
Oh my God, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I have an idea. I've said it before. Essentially, I want it to be Freddy Krueger to come back as sleep paralysis.
Ooh,
oh, nice. And then how about Jason too? Like, there's another one. They've exhausted it, but like I've had the privilege of spending some time with John Carpenter, so
Halloween.
Halloween, and like a number of his, like The Thing and The Fog. Like he was such a master of creating, before we got into all the super high tech, he created all of that suspense out of, very, very little. Think about it. Put a hockey mask on a guy with a knife and create the most scary monster that ever was, without special effects, without anything. So
simple stuff are the best stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think Paranormal, yes, but also I think John Carpenter, any of his franchises,
Halloween.
yeah.
Oh yeah. And of course, if Bruce Campbell knocked my door and says, "I want to kill you with the chainsaw" in the Evil Dead movie, hands down.
Okay, wait, hold on. Now let's go like horror comedy. That's another slant, because the what's the Australian film where the Evil Dead? Isn't that it? Evil Dead. Title.
Evil Dead was Bruce Campbell from Michigan.
Okay, wait. I can't think of. It's the one with it's Australian or New Zealand, and he takes out all the zombies with the
lawnmower.
Lawnmower. What's that one?
Yeah, Dead Alive.
Dead Alive. I'm sorry, Evil Dead.
Yeah, I call it the New Zealand Evil Dead.
Yes. Dead Alive.
Absolutely.
Anything those guys want to do, I'm there.
All right. So last question for the two of you. Any advice for people getting into the field of even filmmaking or acting?
Okay. Well, I'll say this. If there's anything else in the world that you could do that would make you happy, go do it. Because,
wise words.
Yeah.
Listen from the wise.
Yeah. It's I feel like that we live in a world where it's being dangled like a carrot, like it's something it's not. It's if you can't do anything else, then you will enjoy the very arduous path you will be on in the process of pursuing a career. But if there's anything else, if you're thinking fame, fortune, or any of those other things, like by all means, go do that. Flip houses, become an Instagrammer, do a million other things, because you got to love it, because it's not going to be easy. Unless you're like a Nepo baby and, George Lucas is your godfather. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the answer to everything related to filmmaking is you really have to love the process of what you're doing. That's it. That's the whole thing right there. Everything that comes after is a bonus. Because if you're not loving that and you're thinking you're like toiling for this so that you can get to some end result, it is such a tiny percentage that are going to end up at the awards ceremony or the whatever. That's you've got to love the
you just got to be ready to
doing.
get dirty and down and do the hard work and be okay
love
with
that part.
and just be okay with being rejected 100 times, 1,000 times. It's okay, you know, as long as you
rejection at the wazoo, and you've got to be able to face that and be like okay with that.
Yeah, you know.
How many people rejected your script? Probably tons.
That's a whole other podcast.
That doesn't mean it's bad. That's the whole. That's our business.
Really go.
Everybody's telling you no, and then you
just gotta love it. You know, you just love whether if it's coming from a director or writer's path. Just like have your story that you care about and your whys. You know,
and be willing to make it.
Willing to make it and be willing.
Lilia put her money where her mouth is. She made the movie.
I said I was going to do it and I did it, and no matter so many times I had, so many, situations.
And everyone will tell you, okay, this is the best advice, I think. Everyone will tell you why not to do it, why you should do something else. They'll tell you all the things that are going to go wrong. And you have to have so much faith, so much blind faith
in yourself. That
you just go past all of that, and you have to do it anyway.
And in your project.
And if that's your path, then you're going to be okay. Because if you can surpass all of that advice and whatever.
I mean, right now we're painting like when it's like the worst, But obviously there's so much joy and beauty in the whole path, but. It's going to get tough and just be prepared for that. And you know what, if you really want it and you really love it, it's just your soul and your mind and your spirit is not going to let you, rest until you figure it out. So I think you would know eventually, I feel like you would do it because you love it. If you eventually
you'll do it because you have to.
You have to, exactly.
We always say that to people.
If you don't, it's okay. It wasn't, you have, it's okay to do something else. But if you really, really need it that badly, you will figure it out.
You have to. I think that's the secret sauce.
So just enjoy it and surround yourself with good people who will love it as much as you do and are willing to, experiment and, do, crazy stuff if you have to, but all good crazy stuff and just like, make it happen, and you will. It takes time though.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. It's great advice. Like I said, I do the indie horror stuff because I love it. Do I get anything from it other than being around great people? No, but I make it. It's putting out there, and you said rejection is a huge part of it too. Because let's face it, not everyone likes every movie ever made. So
no, it's and it's about that, right? It's almost like what ice cream do you like, right? It's just like just different people, different likes, tastes. That's why there's so many of us.
You make what if you could make what you want to make and be good with that too. Like that's another big part of this whole thing of like you're not trying to like do something that you're second guessing that you think something's going to happen if you do X, Y, Z. You make what you want to make.
And you make it the way you want to make. That's the best thing about being an artist. It's like there's not a set formula. Everybody's journey started differently. There's some overlap here and there, but it's very unique path. Every artist has their own unique path, and just embrace it fully.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's as you guys said earlier before, it's a lot of work making the movie.
It's a lot of work. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not glamorous,
Yeah,
making a movie, it's nothing glamorous in it. You're at the coldest places. The earliest times. Just all kinds of
4
stuff happen. Yeah,
hiking up the side of the
everything happens. You get frozen cameras, no permits. Someone gets sick. always something happens, you
And
know.
sleeping on some guy's couch for the night for 4 hours between shoots.
Oh,
Yes.
freezing yourself to death. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it all comes with it.
Yeah.
It's part of the adventure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Awesome.
That's what makes it
that's what makes
exciting.
it. Right? Yeah, that's what makes it. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. So, all right. So before we sign off, give us your pluggables one more time. Where can people find you, follow you?
So we are at Haunting of Hollywood on Instagram and YouTube, TikTok, X, and Threads everywhere. And then you guys can watch the movie on MommyToo, independent platform for all kinds of independent, amazing movies. So we're there, exclusive for now and the next couple months. So just check us out, watch us. You can download the app for free on your TV, or you can find the streaming link from our Instagram and platforms. And also you can find me at Venus Light ENT or Tiffany at
that Tiffany Downey.
Awesome.
Yeah, shout out at us if you guys like the movie or hated it.
Yeah,
whatever,
Yeah. I said I was able to watch it. I highly suggest watching it. It's a fantastic film. I love it so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. So we'll see you next time. And follow us on all social media, Pod Out at Night. We'll see you next time. Don't get lost in the void. Good night.
Yeah.